Hi, I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
Dontae's Boxing Nation.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to.
Hey yo, check this out, this is Flavor Flav. And if you want the whole truth and nothing but the whole truth, so help the whole truth. Hey yo, you better listen to Dontae, baby. Dontae!
What's going on, guys, and welcome to another great edition of Dontae's Boxing Nation Show. I am your host, Dontae, and we have another great show for you guys, as always, man. It was a great week of boxing. Just came back from California. Me and your boy Boxing Ego covering the fight live, man. It was going down. But before we talk about that, let me go ahead and introduce the panel, the team, as always. In the studio with me, I got my man DJ George. What's going on, George?
Keeping the glue together.
All right, man. And I got my man Boxing Ego. Check out his YouTube channel, Boxing Ego. But for all the latest boxing news, one of the fastest rising websites, check it out, is boxingego.com. All right? I got my man A.K.A. King in the building. And I got my girl, Miss Boxing Baby. Go ahead and check out their YouTube channels as well. All right, guys? Let's get this cracking, man. We had a good weekend. We had a whole lot of drama. But I want to start, before we talk about the big, the major big drama, man, the Mexican style Triple G. Let's go ahead and first talk about Roman Gonzalez defeating William Arroyo in 12 rounds. Now, the first things first, I want to go ahead and make it very clear that HBO and ESPN, they have crowned this man as pound for pound the best boxer in the world. Matter of fact, ESPN, they took it way further. They calling him top 25, one of the greatest fighters in the last 25 years. Let's go ahead and start with you, Boxing Ego, man. Do you believe, after the performance that we seen, and me and you, we covered it, we were ringside, we watched it live, do you believe that he is pound for pound the best fighter in the world? Let's just start with pound for pound today before we even talk about top 25, which that's all pretty much culminated anyway. But what did you think about his performance and them calling him pound for pound the best, Boxing Ego?
As far as his performance, it was solid. It wasn't. The problem with a lot of these entities, what they do, they put a lot of pressure on these guys. You saying he's the top 25 of the last 25 over greats like Miguel Cotto and Winky Wright and people. I can't even say he's greater than Prince Nassim, because even though he got outclassed totally by Marco Antonio Barrera, and Prince Nassim is my dude, childhood favorite of mine. But at least I got to see him step in with somebody the caliber of a Marco Antonio Barrera, who had wars with other guys like Pacquiao and Eric Morales and things like that. So it's just way too premature to be putting these guys on, like guys like Golovkin, who are active, because we have to see them in with the Marco Antonio Barrera of their division.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chocolatito. He looks solid. He clearly won the fight, but based on all the hoopla about he's better, I don't even know if wouldn't even pick him to beat Rigondeaux. They fought like at a catchweight.
Oh, man.
So I can't say, to answer your question, I can't say he's the pound for pound number one. I would rank guys like Kovalev above him, just because I've seen more from Kovalev, and he's putting on dominant performances against game contenders. Jean Pascal had two opportunities to crack the Kovalev Vinci code. He couldn't do it. So guys like that, Pacquiao, Mayweather, if they come back, you can't put them in those types of ranks, because Pacquiao in his prime, when he was blowing through dudes, Mayweather, up until he just retired, would they struggle with the guy who's on a year-plus layoff? I'm not taking anything away from Arroyo. He came up, he showed up, he wanted to win, but would they have a competitive fight? You know what I'm saying? People get mad at Floyd Mayweather for fighting a two-time world champion like a Andre Berto, fighting an interim champion like Robert Guerrero, considering that a cherry pick. Even Mike Donna, he beat Broner's ass and became a champion, and they were mad that Floyd picked him. So what did that tell you about, real pound for pound? They can have you put Mike Donna in the ring with any current welterweight if he's in shape, especially when he beat Broner and was a champion, and no one's going to say it's a mismatch. Keith Thurman and Maidana killed Brook. But you put him in with Floyd, it's a mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I don't think the Chocolatitos' level of opponent on a year-plus layoff, I don't think a Mayweather, if that was someone in the welterweight division, would have looked like that.
And you know, guys, this is why I always say when it comes to these big entities, you know, HBO, when it comes to these big organizations, ESPN, it's easy for you to just go ahead and just tell everybody the fighter that you like is the best and promote him as the best and say, you know, I don't care who really is the best. We're going to promote this guy because we like him. We're going to invest more money in him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No matter how much you try to promote him, no matter how much you try to convince fans that this guy is the best for whatever reason you're doing it, you cannot make that fighter a better fighter. Okay? And this is what we've seen with Nonito Donaire. When Nonito Donaire, when he before he decided to fight Guillermo Rigo, they were, you know, pumping him up as pound for pound right next to Manny Pacquiao. They couldn't wait to put his name right next to Manny Pacquiao after he knocked out Fernando Montiel. And then once he got beat by Guillermo Rigondeaux, they still tried to promote him as basically being the big name, and they still tried to sweep Rigo up under the rug. But no matter how much they tried to promote him, they couldn't make him a better fighter. So then what happened? He ended up moving up in weight, and he gets knocked out against Nicholas Walters. And right now, what I'm seeing with Roman Gonzalez is he is a good fighter. There's no doubt about it. He's a good fighter, very talented. I wouldn't even put Roman Gonzalez in the top 5. You know, because he has to show that he's worth being in the top 5. After this performance, I think once again, you know, ESPN and HBO trying to promote this guy and pump him up, it kind of backfired on him. Because now we're starting to see chinks in the armor. And I truly believe, you know, this is what I was saying. Basically, when it comes to special fighters, usually it takes them a couple of rounds to process the data in a fight and basically figure out an opponent. And after the first couple rounds, they'll be like, okay, I got this guy. And then they usually take over the fight and they start to dominate, right? But in this performance with Roman Gonzalez, it was the contrary. As the fight progressed, actually William Arroyo, he started doing better. It kind of reminded me of Marco Antonio Rubio fighting against David Lemieux, where, you know, Rubio, he came in there and he was the heavy underdog. He wasn't expected to win. Next thing you know, later rounds, he's outboxing David Lemieux. And this fight kind of looked like that. I liked a lot of stuff that William Arroyo was doing in there. He was using a lot of double, triple jabs and circling and just throwing these quick combinations. It seemed to me that when he started to walk through a lot of Roman Gonzalez's big punches, it kind of discouraged Roman Gonzalez. We always talk about power punchers. They often have to rely on their power, right? So once you get past that power, then we really see what these fighters are made of. And it seems to me that Roman Gonzalez, he looked discouraged. He slowed down tremendously in the second half of the fight. A lot of the punches became arm punches and arm shots, and every now and then he would mix in like a hard right hand or something like that. But I thought he was slightly exposed because this wasn't a Guillermo Rigondeaux he was in the ring with. Like Ego said, this wasn't a Marco Antonio Barrera. This was, a third tier, not even a second tier. This was a third tier type of an opponent. This was just a showcase type of performance for Roman Gonzalez, and it was an extremely competitive fight. So once again, man, I think this is the beginning of the unraveling when it comes to Roman Gonzalez. We need to see him step up in competition, and there's really nobody down there except for I guess the Inuk, I forget his name, what is it, Inuku or something like that. What is it?
We're talking about Estrada?
Well, there's Estrada, then there's the Japanese guy. I'm killing his name right now, but it's
Inu. I think it's Inu.
Inu, yeah, something like that. So those are some decent opponents, but realistically, a lot of people believe that Roman Gonzalez, you know, he's kind of doing the Conor McGregor thing, where he's fighting at a much smaller weight class, you know, and he wants to keep that weight advantage. Naturally, who knows? I mean, Roman Gonzalez might naturally be a 118 pounder, you know. So, because I know he rehydrates. At least about 10, 15 pounds. So,
hey, Dontae, and you know what's funny? Like Ego was saying earlier, you know, like let's compare him to Prince Nassim real quick. Prince Nassim moved up for 112 pounds too. and then he moved up all the way to 126, and he was, I think at one point he was holding all the belts at 126. You know, Roman Gonzalez, I think he moved up just one time to fight 115, and then he moved back down. So if you wanted him to be a pay-per-view pound-for-pound fighter, he got to move up in weight and fight some of these other guys, like we said, Rigondeaux or somebody at 118 or 122. You know, I mean, if you're gonna, like, his performance, he did well as far as, you know, him being as a good fighter. But if you saying he's a pound for pound number one type of guy or on the top 5, then that was a kind of like a bad performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what it is. That's what it is. Just like Boxing Eagle said, you know, you have these people like HBO and ESPN, they putting all this pressure on these fighters. But like I keep telling you guys, you cannot make these fighters better. You know, you can tell people whatever you want to tell them, but you can't make them better. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on, guys. And I want to start with you, Miss Boxing Baby, on this one right here. Since you pretty much called it, you predicted that the fight wouldn't go more than 2 rounds. Miss Boxing Baby, your boy Gennady Golovkin, he knocks out Domonic Wade in the second round. Tell us, how did you know it wasn't going to go no more than 2 rounds, Miss Boxing Baby?
I haven't seen much from Wade. Actually, my only fight I saw with him was with Sam Solomon, and he looked bad. Actually, I thought Sam Solomon won that fight, and I just went off of that. I said, if he looked that bad against Sam Solomon, he's going to get destroyed by Triple G. It's just, when they were mentioning his name and saying he had power and he could test him, I knew. I just knew.
Yeah.
So he would do nothing. He had nothing to offer him.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's funny, Dontae? Golovkin actually has more potential than Roman Gonzalez to me. Yeah, I mean, like, Roman Gonzalez looked more beatable than Golovkin.
Way more beatable. Way more beatable.
Golovkin, I think it takes a special talent like Andre Ward to pull it off.
Yeah.
But like I said, with Roman Gonzalez, it don't really take a rigging deal for him, you know, to lose it. It takes like even a Frampton. If Frampton was like a 118 pounder or 115 pounder, he probably could pull it off.
Man, William Arroyo almost pulled it off. You know, I mean, so that goes to show you right there that it doesn't take a Rigo to beat him. You know, like I said, I think he was completely, you know, exposed. You know, a lot of people they talk about certain fighters being exposed, but this is the true definition of being exposed. Once again, you're in there with a guy that's nowhere near on your level. This was supposed to be a walk in the park for Roman Gonzalez. And then it tripped me out. Ego, you probably recall we were there at the press conference afterwards, and if you notice, Roman Gonzalez, you could tell he was not happy with his performance. He kept making excuses. He kept saying, well, you know, the guy kept moving, and that's why I had problems. The guy kept moving. You know, I couldn't get to that microphone quick enough to ask him, man, how do you have all these damn fights, and you're telling me that your weakness is a guy that uses foot movement, and you can't cut off the ring? And not only that, but William wasn't even moving that much, right, Ego? He wasn't even moving that much.
Yeah. And see, the other thing they were saying is they say he fought like Floyd Mayweather, but with more offense and in style. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
The knockouts with it. You know what I mean? Beforehand, they were saying he's like a Floyd Mayweather style, but more exciting. You know what I'm saying? Floyd Mayweather he's not going to struggle with an Arroyo. Like, and the reason I'm saying that is because I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like, you put him in there with somebody who's not supposed to be in there with them, you're going to see. Even guys like Canelo, over 10 years younger than him, what happened in the 11th round? Canelo was punching at the ropes and turnbuckle. Floyd looking off into the crowd. What did he do to Berto? He stick the tongue out at Berto's girlfriend. You know what I mean? He's going to show you and try to embarrass you.
Yeah.
You always talk about knockout shit. Oh, he doesn't give any knockouts. He was getting that when he was a kid. Now it's about fighting smarter, not harder. And if you get in there with Floyd, and he has you figured out, you're gonna get embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? He's dancing versus Berto and all types of stuff. Let's see Chocolatito start dancing versus Arroyo. He wouldn't want to do that because he didn't have that much control over the fight to the point where showboating would have been called for.
Yeah, and another thing, man, you know, like his defense wasn't too sharp. Like, it seems like he's all offense, and you know, it gets to that point if somebody, you know what I'm saying, your power is not enough, or you're fighting a counterpuncher, a good-ass counterpuncher, you know, how are you going to look? And that's the question I want to be answered, you know what I'm saying, when Roman Gonzalez step up, or, you know, move up in divisions. Because, like I'm telling you, it seems like he's all offense right now, and it's like that's his defense. He's not really that sharp defensively.
And you know what this reminds me of? Just a quick analogy is like when I worked before I did the boxing stuff full time. When I worked retail, I used to never give just random people I went to school with. I would never they were like put in a good word for me. But I don't vouch for people that I don't know what their quality of work is like or their morals and stuff like that. I'm not gonna get you a job and you under my name. I got you hired, and then all of a sudden
make you look bad.
All kinds of stuff. And that's what it reminds me of when I think of HBO and the ESPN. They're so quick to anoint who's next. I've seen this. If you watch boxing, Kelly Pavlik was supposed to be that dude. Jermaine Taylor, who beats Bernard Hopkins twice. Jermaine Taylor did. All these people were supposed to be the next coming of Jesus or whatever. And I got to see it. I'm not just vouching for somebody. Roman is skilled. He's good. I told people about him. But there's some things he needs to tighten up on, and that's just what it is. I'm not going to say he's better than Miguel Cotto, someone who I've seen his whole career.
Yeah, and see, once again, man, and this is the reason why I love that these fighters, they have to get in the ring and they have to prove what people like HBO and ESPN is basically saying. And we didn't see that. We didn't see a guy that was pound for pound the best fighter in the world, or even top 5 the best fighter in the world. Go ahead.
I got a quick question. Since ESPN said that Chocolatito was better than Cotto or ranked higher, Cotto at least had a competitive fight, somewhat competitive with Canelo, who was much younger than him and outweighed him 20, 23, 25 pounds. If Arroyo outweighed him, and Arroyo is no Canelo, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If Arroyo outweighed Chocolatito by 20, 23 pounds on the night of the fight, what type of fight do you think that would have been?
We already know. We already know.
You know what I'm saying? But Cotto is at least, he didn't get knocked down or knocked out versus Canelo, who we know how good Canelo is because he's fought the best fighter on the planet. You know what I mean? So it's premature. We got to see more from all these guys that they're trying to shove in your, force feed you or whatever.
Yep, exactly. And another thing I wanted to say, E, is and I want to ask all you guys, did you notice? Well, let me start with you, AK. Did you notice that when Errol Spence, we got to look at the contrast. When Errol Spence knocked out Chris Algieri, all the fighters and trainers that I've been interviewing and the interviews that I've been watching, they've all been praising the hell out of Errol Spence after knocking out Chris Algieri. But when it comes to Golovkin, which was a sensational knockout, but when it comes to him knocking out Domonic Wade, it seems like, the reception is completely different. Like, I talked to Virgil Hunter after the fight, and he was like, well, even if he fought Danny Jacobs or Billy Joe Saunders, that would be a hell of a step up compared to what we're looking at now. You had Canelo Alvarez, who was comparing his resume at age 25 to what Golovkin is doing right now. You even had one of Golovkin's allies, Sergey Kovalev, and you guys could check out that video, that interview on Boxing Ego's channel, because Boxing Ego, he has Sergey Kovalev actually talking about Golovkin isn't basically fighting anyone, and I'm paraphrasing, but let me just start with you real quick, A-Rap. Why do you think, the contrast is so different when it comes to praising Errol Spence's performance versus Golovkin's?
Yeah, and keep in mind that Errol Spence is a nice guy. He don't play, he's not a bad guy like Floyd Mayweather, and he's just like a Golovkin, and he speaks English, and he's all American. But the answer to that, we all know the answer to that, which is skin color. I'm gonna just say that right away. And you got to keep in mind, Algieri is the better fighter than he's better than Wade. He's more proven.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So that win was more impressive, and like you said, he didn't get as much praise, and he was actually getting a lot of hate on the side too, even from Algieri trainer. He was saying that he's still overhyped, and then Danny Garcia said some things, and Kell Brooks said some things. You could check that out on Boxing Ego. So at the end of the day, like I said, he's getting love, but at the same time, he's getting a lot of hate on the side too. On the other side, Golovkin is all praise, and he's not knocking out nobody, not even on Algeria level. It's just regular contenders.
And that's sad. I just thought about it when you just said that, AK. Do you know that if Chris Algieri was a natural middleweight, he would probably be the best opponent on Gennady Golovkin's record? You know what I mean? Like let's just say hypothetically, if he still fought Manny Pacquiao, if he still fought Amir Khan, if he still beat Ruslan Provodnikov, you know, he would be probably the best name, you know, on Golovkin's, you know, resume. But going to you, Boxing Ego, that interview you did with Sergey Kovalev, man. I mean, was that surprising to you, Boxing Ego, that you got Sergey Kovalev, who's pretty much like an ally? I just had somebody send me a message the other day on a video that I did, and they were saying that, Sergey Kovalev is Golovkin's best friend. Because, you know, the video that I did with Virgil Hunter is saying, I talked to Golovkin's best friend, and some guy posted a comment and said, that's not his best friend. Sergey Kovalev is his best friend. So why is Golovkin's best friend criticizing Golovkin's resume, E?
Well, I mean, nothing surprises me in boxing. That's for starters. Everything's to be expected. But the reason I think, there's a difference. People will get it twisted. Now a lot of people are soft, and they think everything is hate. Like, when someone has a reasonable comment and they're supporting why they feel like that, a lot of times that's not hate. That's just a really opinion-based response. So Kovalev, I don't think he was hating on Golovkin. He was just being real. Yeah. So I'm thankful that he was being real. He said specifically in his Russian accent, he says, I've never heard of he didn't even know his name. I've never heard of him. He's unknown, but they found him. He said, I don't know where they found him. He said, but somehow they found him. And, but
they found him.
Like, he said they found him. He said, I've never seen him. Who's ever seen Wade fight? That's basically what he said video on my channel. So, I mean, he was just being honest, and that's what it is. Like, you got kick and scream, but it's a fact. Most people hadn't been familiar with Wade. Same thing with Willie Monroe. I cover boxing, and the only fight that I had seen of Willie Monroe was against Brian Vera because it was on ESPN. But aside from that, some of these opponents, Adama, I ain't never watched him, to be honest.
Of course.
Fight.
Of course. I don't even know his full name. I just call him Adama because I don't know his full name.
I thought he was fighting a singer, like a pop star or something. I didn't know no Adama.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Akon's artist or something. But, yeah, I mean, Kovalev was just being honest. So it is what it is. And people, I think, are growing tired of seeing Golovkin. They know he's good. If you're C level, D level, probably B minus level, he's smoking you. And that's just what it is. So I think people are growing tired of seeing that level of competition. Someone who could, like, you look at the greatest fighters, the best fighters of this last generation, the Pacquiaos and Mayweather, not every single one of their fights are one-sided. In round one, you know they're destroying that person. Even like Pacquiao versus David Diaz. As the fight wore on, he started breaking Diaz down and whatever. But everybody Golovkin is in with. Like,
there's some noise in the background. Somebody has some loud noise in the background. Just letting you guys know. Put it on mute if you can.
Well, Triple G fights are easier to look one-sided because of the level of competition. If you look at Pacquiao and Floyd, their competition was much harder. So, and most of Floyd's fights had been one-sided.
You just made my point.
Yeah, that's the point.
You look at anyone who's known elite, and they're not even having those one-sided skill fighters. You know what I mean? From Bernard Hopkins to Pacquiao to Mayweather, none of them are. Every single fight they have is one-sided. Zab gave Floyd some. Adana gave him some. So it just shows you the level of competition isn't quite there, because I don't believe there's one person who you match him with anybody and everything is easy work.
And
even if you win, even if Golovkin beats him anyway, I don't think he would go in there with Carl Froch at 168 since he said he was willing to go there. I would bet money that even if he were to win that fight, he's not going to go in there round one, give Carl Froch no respect, and just smoke him like Domonic Wade. I refuse to believe that.
Maybe I'm crazy, but I think Canelo's gonna get him some trouble. Why people keep saying, what?
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Canelo has a chance of beating him. Canelo has a chance of beating this man. We never really see him fleshly hit by somebody who's not going back off. We don't know how he take a punch. We don't know that.
I think that's a 50-50 fight. I think Canelo just doesn't have the confidence.
I agree.
But if you think about it, Golovkin's never been in the ring with a guy with the power and the skill set that Golovkin has, that Canelo has, you know. But I want to say real quick before I forget, the more we're talking about this Golovkin versus Wade fight, You know what fight it reminds me of? I'm going to go way back on y'all. It reminds me, and this was a mandatory, just like when Roy Jones had his mandatories. It reminds me of some of the mandatories that Roy Jones had. Y'all remember he fought the police officer. His name was Frazier. Dude came in there, and Roy Jones just obliterated him like in the first round, and it looked like the dude had just put on gloves the first time. Not trying to really crap all over Domonic Wade, but that's what it reminds me of. It also reminds me of when Roy Jones fought the other mandatory, which was they called him the punch and post man because he was a mailman. I don't know if you guys remember that fight. I forget his name, but Roy Jones just went in there just having a field day. It was a sparring session,
Since we're all boxing historians here, and you brought up Roy Jones, that goes to show you the level of double standards. Because Roy Jones, I remember in the interview, he said they keep saying I'm beating nobody. He said I'm just making them look like nobody.
Yeah,
fighting guys like Virgil Hill, guys with backgrounds in the sport, and he's stopping them to the body. I don't think Virgil Hill had ever been stopped at that point. Mm-hmm. And there were some people that later he fought some guy, I think from Australia or something. But the point is, you see the contrast. You see Roy Jones when he's fighting unknown people. People were saying they're nobodies. Like, oh, who the hell is Virgil Hill and who's this if it wasn't a big name? And he wasn't getting no credit for it.
But the Virgil Hill was a big name. Yeah, you're right. That's a double standard, though, because Virgil Hill, he was the best. Yeah.
Well, whoever. I'm just saying the other people on Roy Jones, because they hadn't heard of him, they weren't giving him credit for those wins. They're like, oh, he's beating nobody. That's my point. And when Triple G, people, it's like they're bragging that they don't know who Triple G's opponent is. They just want to see someone get stopped. That's cool, but I want to see someone get stopped that has a chance. That's more impressive. So when you bring up Earl Spence, that's more impressive because I've seen Ruslan not be able to stop Algieri. I've seen Pacquiao not be able to stop Algieri. So to me, those are more meaningful wins because I've seen, Earl Spence was a prospect. He was still in the kind of prospect stage, if you will.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Golovkin, we already know he's a silver medalist, and we know he's undefeated, 22 knockouts straight. We know these things about him. He's not in the prospect stage. He's a champion, unlike Earl Spence Jr. So to me, it's more telling to see, the new blood knock out a guy like Chris Algieri than a guy beat Domonic Wade.
And according to ESPN, not only is, Golovkin already established, but according to ESPN, he is top 25, one of the greatest fighters of all time in the last 25 years. You know what I mean? So he's not just established compared to Errol Spence. They damn near putting his name. They putting his name pretty much next to the Floyd Mayweathers and the other greats. Top 25. It don't matter if you at the bottom of the 25 or you top 5. They're putting him on that list, and he hasn't fought anyone on his level yet. Granted, there, of course, like we keep saying, you have the Danny Jacobs, you have the Billy Joe Saunders that don't want to get in the ring with him. But once again, if you have, and that's my next question, guys. I go ahead and ask you right now. So if, let's say, assuming Joe Saunders doesn't fight him, right? Okay, and we know Danny Jacobs, he's not interested right now. Okay, so he has Gilberto Ramirez, James DeGale, Edislandi Lara, Kell Brook, just to name the main ones. All of these guys, they have their hand raised. They want to fight they want to fight Gennady Golovkin. So who should Golovkin fight next? And does he have a reason not to fight any of these guys? I guess Miss Boxing Baby, you can start with that one.
You said who should he fight next?
Yeah. Out of the guys, Gilberto Ramirez, Kell Brook, James DeGale, Edislandi Lara.
No. He can fight DeGale, but the other ones, no. Why would he fight Kell Brook?
I think Kell Brook has a good chance, honestly.
No. No.
You don't think so?
I'm not trying to see Triple G fight a bunch of smaller guys.
Thank you. No, I don't want to do it.
At least Canelo is a middleweight champion, and he's big enough. He rehydrates enough. But Kell Brook, I mean, what's the point of being a middleweight champion and fighting the welterweight? That's what.
No, I agree, but guys, this just goes to show you the level of competition that Golovkin has been in. Just the fact we've been talking about it, you know what I mean? Because even though
you try to settle because you're like,
that's what exactly. There you go. You said it perfect. I'm settling right now, and I'm like, man, just give me something, man. Just let me see you in there with a name, even if it's a featherweight. Let me see you in there with a good, featherweight or lightweight or something. Just give me something, man. I just want to see somebody who is known, who who has a reputation of being on the A side or being a favorite. But you're right though. The size disparity would be ridiculous when it comes to Kell Brook because we know.
That's why I'm not criticizing Khan and Canelo. That's the point I was trying to tell you. At least you picked a tune-up fight with a guy who has a name and can sell tickets. You know what I'm saying? Whether he's smaller than him.
But it's not a tune-up fight though, it's boxing, baby. Because who is he tuning up for? Who's
that's supposed to be the tune-up to solidify that day with Triple G.
That's a tune-up. That's a tune-up for David Lemieux. That's what that is.
The point I'm making is at least he picked somebody with a name that can sell tickets. Who the hell is a Domonic Wade? That's the point. He picked somebody with a name that can sell some tickets. People are actually giving Khan a chance. They're giving him a chance. He don't have one, but they're giving him a chance.
Well, I will say. I will just say, I agree with the majority of what you're saying, but I will say to Golovkin's defense, that was his mandatory, so he had...
Yeah, I mean, I would rather someone take their mandatory out the equation to stay busy,
yeah.
To be in their division. He's fighting someone in his division.
So now the excuses are gone, though, because now he doesn't have a mandatory next. So now... who he chooses next is going to be his fault. I mean, he said Kell Brook is too small. He just recently said Gilberto Ramirez, is not a big enough name. So who are you going to fight better than those guys? Because Canelo don't want it. Not right now.
He said Kell Brook is too small. When did he say that?
He just recently, on Dontae's Boxing Nation and Boxing Ego. We were both. He said that to both of us.
Wait, so Floyd isn't?
That's what I said. He said Kell Brook is too small at 157, but then he'll fight Floyd at 154. But let's play. Hold on, Miss Boxing Baby. Since you said that, let's play Golovkin's advocate. So this is what the Golovkin fans are saying. They're saying, "Oh, come on, you know that it's worth going down to fight Floyd Mayweather." So what do you say to that, Miss Boxing Baby? They're saying it's an exception for him to say Kell Brook is too small and fight a smaller Mayweather because Mayweather has a bigger name. What do you say about that, Miss Boxing Baby?
That's not what it is because they want Mayweather to lose, and they're praying that this will be the one. That's why. They don't care. They're hoping that he can go down there and beat him. That's what they're hoping.
Go ahead,
I don't want to before and beat him.
Go ahead.
Well, as far as that, Kell Brook is a big fight, too. That's like a Frost fight, to be honest. Kell Brook is he's pretty huge in the UK, so that's a crazy ass fight, and it's at 157. You only got to go down 3 pounds. You don't got to go down 6 pounds. And just the Golovkin defense, I don't think Kell Brook is serious because he would have took the Cotto fight if that was the case. I think he was just trolling. I think he was just trolling on that.
I don't know, man.
Triple D said he could beat anybody. Triple D said he could beat anybody from 160 to 175. But why would he call out people that are always smaller than the 168 or the 175? Why can't he go up? Why is it always going down? Why don't you go up to super middleweight? Go up to light heavyweight. You said it. He said he'll fight and beat anybody from 160 to 175. But he seems to always call out the smaller guys.
But see, I
don't want to see him. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see him against a legitimate opponent, and that's not against Lara. But Lara wouldn't beat him either. I don't want to see that. I want to see him fight somebody in his division or higher.
But I would like to see the Lara fight.
He won't beat him either.
Maybe Lara would lose, but I would love to see that fight. And let me tell you this,
that would for Lara.
Yeah. I mean, think about this: if Golovkin could do something to Lara that Canelo couldn't do, or no other opponent could do, that would be a feather in Golovkin's cap. So and not only that,
why can't he go up and fight somebody else? since he said he can do it, why hasn't it happened? I mean,
that's too dangerous. That's too dangerous. You know, we trying to keep him winning, aren't we?
He's not 18-0. He's not 18-0. He's 35-0. Y'all hear the number? He's 35-0, and he's fought nobody. Why can't he move up and fight somebody up there?
Yeah,
Carl Frost was retired. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well,
hey, but Dontae, speaking of the double standard, is Peter Quillin, when he was in his middleweight championship reign or whatever, he got a lot of slack, and he was for a guy that didn't have an amateur background at all. You know what I mean? Started boxing late and kind of self-taught. He was fighting Hassan Indam, knocked him down 4 times in Lemieux. He fought Gabe Rosado, who's tough before. Gabe Rosado had a bunch more losses, you know what I mean, to other guys. You know what I'm saying? He was fighting a couple of Winky Wright out of a little hiatus. So he was actually fighting, and he was getting a lot of hate. Like, people were just, Kid Chaka, he's weak. I mean, I'm not agreeing with everything he's done, like dropping and vacating the belt and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of what he was like. That's kind of what people need to see from Golovkin next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about Hassan Indam now because he lost to Quillin and Lemieux, and he fought Curtis Stevens, so he has some mileage on him. But back then, that would have been a good fight instead of Adama. You know what I'm saying? Well,
they criticized Deontay Wilder actually fighting Povetkin almost more than they criticized Golovkin.
That's a mandatory too. So I thought we liked the mandatory thing.
And before Deontay Wilder signed the contract, they said Deontay Wilder was ducking him. When he was fighting Spilka, when he was fighting Molina, they said he was ducking Povetkin. Now that he's doing it, now all of a sudden they're criticizing him. Oh, well, that was his mandatory. You know, he ain't doing nothing special. Well, if that's the case, how come Canelo hasn't fought Golovkin yet? How come, a lot of fighters, how come Carl Frampton didn't fight his mandatory Guillermo Rigondeaux? If it's just so easy for everybody to do it. So
since you brought up Wilder, I don't care if this is controversial, if nobody agrees with me. To me, Spilka, he's a southpaw. He's in a division where one punch can change everything in the heavyweight division. He's a southpaw. He lost to Bryant Jennings, got a new team with Ronnie Shields, a good trainer, lost all this weight and came back shredded and came back like pretty ripped and stuff because he used to be like soft looking and pudgy and kind of reshaped his career. And he gave Deontay Wilder a challenge. Like, he was like fidgety and he was moving, some head movement. And to me, seeing Wilder knock him out, given how focused Spilka, he wasn't afraid of Wilder. He said, I don't care about your power. He had the Polish community at New York at the fight. To me, those are more impressive wins because Deontay Wilder had to battle through some adversity to get that knockout. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When you hit the tree and the tree fall and all the leaves crumble, like, you know what I mean, like Domonic Wade, I'm not trying to roast him or clown. I'm just saying that doesn't really show me as much because there's no resistance there. The first plan A works, and I went with it. That's cool, but in boxing, plan A doesn't always work. So I want to see how you have to do like Floyd did with Zab Judah or Maidana, where you have to resort to some other plan Bs and stuff. Even Berto versus Guerrero. Berto was getting fucked up in that shoulder roll and stuff like that. And he had his lip all poked out. Yeah, he came back and started lumping up Guerrero's eyes. Fights like that show me more than somebody just like steamrolling everybody. And you know what I'm saying? And I think it's like Boxing Baby said. I think it's a level of competition. Not everyone's just going to fall when you hit them.
And you know what the difference was, Ego, but from Wilder, knocking out Spilka and Golovkin fighting Wade, the Monroes and the Lemieux. When it comes to Wilder, he's in a heavyweight division where everyone has power. Everyone has sick power, and the majority of those fighters are actually bigger than Deontay Wilder, right? So with Golovkin, he's enjoying a power advantage over a lot of guys that aren't on his level. And that's the reason why he's not too crazy about moving up, just like Roman Gonzalez doesn't want to move up, to a weight class where, he's going to, the power is going to be equal when it comes to his opponents. It's going to be more of an even playing field when it comes to power. So that's the big difference, So, something else I want to touch on since we're talking about this. Something else, we already know what time it is, but I'm going to keep exposing it. Terrence Crawford, it's just been official. It's pretty much official that the Terrence Crawford versus Victor Postal fight, is going down. Top Rank Bob Arum, he just said, both fighters have finally agreed to terms. So that's pretty much a done deal when it comes to that fight. But do you guys notice that all the fighters on the coincidental list that were accused of ducking and avoiding, right? When it came to Terrence Crawford, they said he was afraid of Victor Postal. When it came to Deontay Wilder, they said he was afraid of Povetkin. When it came to Andre Ward, they said he was afraid of Sergey Kovalev, right? He's already signed a contract to fight Sergey Kovalev, right? How is it we're getting all of these fights from the quote-unquote Mayweather-Pacquiao? Oh, we could go down the list. But how come we're getting all the fights from the guys that are supposed to be the biggest cowards? I'm hearing some loud background noise real quick, just letting you guys know, some wind or something like that. But how come it's always the guys on a coincidental list that are supposed to be the biggest cowards? They're giving us the fights that us fans said we want to see. Meanwhile, we still haven't got Canelo versus Golovkin. We still haven't got Golovkin versus Ward. We still haven't got Leo Santa Cruz or Carl Frampton versus Guillermo Rigondeaux. We know what time it is. You know what I mean? So I don't even have to ask why it is. We know what time it is. I'm just stating the obvious and putting it out there so you guys can see the shit clearly. So yeah, that's what it is. But I'm happy that fight is official.
What are you trying to say, Dontae? Those the real cowards?
Yeah, hey, go ahead and say it. You speak your mind, man. Hey, hey, the truth is the truth, and I'm gonna leave it at that. You know what I mean? You could call it whatever you want to call it. The truth is the truth. So whatever they calling the fighters on the coincidental list, you need to be calling these fighters the same thing, and I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, man. So hey, y'all. So let's close out with this Berto versus Ortiz fight, man. This is a good one. Let's go ahead and start with you on that, AK. Who's going to win and why, man?
Oh man, look, man. So if Berto, the same guy, if he trained as hard as he trained for the Floyd Mayweather fight, I would pick him to win. Because Ortiz, he showed, that he's a quitter when the tough, when the road gets tough, he quits. And Berto, on the other hand, every time the road was tough, he kept going. So if I have to bet, I would put my money on Berto. But I gotta mention that Berto's not so comfortable in the inside that he never has. And Ortiz, he hit pretty hard.
Good point.
He throws some nice combinations in the inside. So if Ortiz is able to pressure him and land and make it a dog fight or an inside fight, he will win the fight in my mind. But like I said, I just don't like to pick Ortiz because the guy quits too damn much. So, that's my prediction.
Man, good breakdown, AK. How's it going down, Ego?
Well, I think I have to watch the Expendables Part 3 to really understand.
Better assessment.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it yet. So
you got to see how good he can dance, too. You need to download, the dancing, with the stars, too. See how good of a dancer he is.
No, but I agree with AK. I think this is kind of a 50-50 fight, crossroads fight for both. The first fight was a fight of the year, and I expect this could be like that, too, where both guys have to make some adjustments, and the better man's going to win. So I would probably slightly lean towards Berto. I wouldn't say Victor Ortiz is out. He's a tricky, a big southpaw, and maybe he doesn't like all the media flack about quitting and stuff, so maybe he'll come focused. But 9 times out of 10, if someone has showed me that type of mental weakness, I'm probably going to pick against him in a tough fight because, like AK said, Berto came sliced and shredded in the Floyd Mayweather fight. It just so happened he was in the fight with Floyd, so there's not much most people could do with Floyd to begin with. But Ortiz is not a Floyd, and we've seen that when they fought.
Miss Boxing Baby, who takes it?
Either one of them. If this fight comes down on who has the most left, so I'm not really picking anybody. Either one. It's a 50-50 fight.
It is a 50-50 fight. I think Andre Berto, he looked great against Floyd Mayweather. Styles do make fights. I think that Andre Berto, he's definitely learned from his mistakes in the first fight. He's not going to go in there trying to slug, toe-to-toe with Victor Ortiz. He's going to be very aware of getting caught with them hooks on the inside. He's not going to he's not going to hurt Victor Ortiz like he did last time and go in there reckless and leave himself wide open to be countered and he gets knocked down like the first fight. I see him being a better boxer, man, but I would have to hedge it with Victor Ortiz eventually landing something. I agree with AK. Victor Ortiz is the better inside fighter. Berto has never really been a good inside fighter, other than having a good uppercut, but that was when he was like undefeated. I haven't really seen that impressive uppercut, since he's been losing fights. So, but I would have to slightly lean towards Andre Berto in this fight. I think worst case scenario, his reflexes, his boxing ability, it'll carry him, throughout this fight, to the victory, to the W. So that's pretty much how I have it. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Once again, man, I want to say thanks to you guys for always supporting. Man, for all of you guys that have been donating to me and Boxing Ego, man, we really, really appreciate it. Keep showing your love. You guys don't realize how much it helps us. We're now rich. We go out and we spend our own money to go to Oakland, to go to New York, to wherever we go to cover these fights and give y'all, the best experience when it comes to the new media. You know what I mean? So that's what it is, man. Once again, go ahead and show that love and donate to the channel if you really appreciate what we're doing. I don't care if it's a quarter. I don't care if it's $1. Just go ahead and show that love, all right? It is what it is. The info is in the description box, and that's what it is. Let me stop my phone from ringing while I'm over here, talking. But that's what it is, guys. We will see you guys next week. We are on to the next one. It is the nation, baby.